Hey everybody, Nerd Transformed here again, and today I'm reviewing from the first movie, Action Battlers, Battle Blade Starscream, and Gyro Blade Blackout. The R's and the L's back there. Got me all tongue twisted. Anyway, what these were kind of gimmicked, simplified figures of the two characters from the movie, so that way you didn't have to buy the Voyagers to have them, and they, like I mentioned, they are simplified and they are gimmicked. Or they rely around a gimmick. Basically, Fast Action Battlers was like, had a couple of transformation elements, but it would have one big automatic transformation, and you could transform in about 4 to 5 steps. Really easy for kids. They're really good, big size too. Just to give you an idea, here we have the Classics Deluxe Starscream that came out like a year or two before. You can see they are about, while they are a little chunkier, they are about the same size as the Deluxe, as you can see. Yeah, about the same length and size as Starscream there, just a little bit bulkier. But yeah, these were basically simplified toys for kids that were easy to transform and had a little gimmick of having an attack that you could set off for the kids to play with. Which is convenient because the Voyagers that these two got were way overcomplicated. But we'll get to those later. Starting with Starscream here, you can see he's still an F-22 Raptor, just like the movie version, just a really super deformed kind of one. It's also really simplified, and you can see the simplification because, like, you can see the hands right here for the robot mode. They do try to cover them up with some missiles, but you can definitely see those are the hands. And back here, yeah, there's no hiding those legs. Both the top and the feet here are just sticking off the jet. And for the most part, they pull it off, but then literally just the legs. I mean, I guess you could say he has the easiest Gerwalk mode ever. I mean, there we go. He's in Gerwalk mode. Brrr. But yeah, it does have its own faults, but you know, I don't think it's that bad. It's probably fun for me. I mean, as a kid, I liked this toy, so it's pretty alright. He does have a Decepticon tempo done in the movie style tempo right here. You can see the cockpit is painted in black. Mine has a little spot on it, some white around it, some white for the cone here, some white along the edges here, some for the wings as well, and some for the tail fin. So it does have an okay amount of paint for what it is, and the missiles are painted in this maroon color. So yeah, these were about $8 to $10, I think. Oh yeah, it also has landing gear you can fold up and down, so there's that. And the other two sets of landing gear are on the hips. So yeah, for a little super deformed jet, it's pretty alright. And it does have the wings are movable up and down if you want. So you can have it like that, you can have them more at the angle, you know, I prefer to just keep them flat out. And now for Gyro Blade Blackout, who's a little different. Once again, he is a super deformed version of his movie counterpart. He does have the blades, of course, and you can spin them, and they will free spin, although they might bump into other things depending on how you have transformed, but they will mostly free spin alright. Same for the tail fin here, although they'll bump into each other. The weirdest thing about him is that he can have some missing pieces, unlike Starscream. For one thing, this tail fin is on a very thin hinge. I mean, it's pretty easy to pop that piece off. And as well as this piece is removable. There we go. Pretty easily for the gimmick. And he's also supposed to come with a missile. Unfortunately, that is one of the pieces I'm missing, is I do not have the missile, but it is just your standard black missile. It goes in the front, you press a button, it shoots out. So, not a big deal to really be missing it, although it is part of his gimmick if you do care about that. And he also has landing gear. They don't fold up or down, but they do both roll alright. Not as well as a lot of our figures. Gyro Blade Blackout there does roll a little better than Starscream, but they both still pull it off pretty well. Now they get down to transformation. They are both pretty simple. We'll take Battle Blade Starscream here. Just fold up that landing gear. And it is pretty easy. Go ahead and get the legs down a bit like this and out of the way. Grab the cockpit and it'll just unclip. And now it'll unclip the auto transformation piece here. Because what you're going to do is you're going to grab the two sides of the plane and they'll open up. And when you do that, that actually starts the auto transformation. Can be a little tricky to get going, but I'll try to show you how exactly it works. So all you're going to do is flip these on back. Go ahead and get the legs out of the way. And as you do so, you can see everything starts to move around. And I'll show you from the back side too. As you pull the arms out, it causes, I guess you could say, the spine of the figure to kind of align in place. And the wings will fit right under the tail fins there. And as you're doing that, it also moves the back of the jet forward, as you can see, to put his head in place. Then finally the cockpit does click in place, like so, and that locks it all together again. Go ahead and get the legs in place. And there you have Starscream, Fast Action Battlers Starscream in his robot mode. Pretty simple. So the cockpit kind of holds them together for both modes for the most part. I'm just that lighting a little, and there we go. And now we'll go ahead and do Gyro Blade Blackout here. So you're going to want to just kind of remove the top rotor there, just makes it a little bit easier. Go ahead and grab the sides of the helicopter, and they will extend, give him some more bulk. Grab the tail here, and it is on a separate panel that's picking the legs in place. Now allow the legs to kind of just come on down. And this is kind of his auto transformation for it, because when you do that, they'll actually puff out the arms a little bit more, like so. Go ahead and fold down the feet. So yeah, these are both kind of just simplified versions of what their Voyager counterparts do, much more simplified considering how overcomplicated those can be. Go ahead and grab the outer part of the arm so you will rotate down. You can also leave this up and just bring the arm down like that, but I think it looks better like this, so I go with the rotation. And then you're going to take the tail fin, like I mentioned, it's on that hinge, you just fold it up, take this whole tail piece, fold it up like that, and that's as far as it goes. Then you're just going to grab this whole thing, bring it on down, now also reveal the head, which is actually kind of hard to see, but we'll get to that in a minute. And the last thing you're going to do for transformation, flip up this little piece, and when it flipped up, that gives you enough room to reattach the gyro blade, or the rotor if you prefer, to give him that look he has in the movie. Or at least kind of simulate it. It does look a little ridiculous in this form, but at least they did try to at least bring it in for a representation here. And here we have these two in robot mode where we kind of basically have a cutesified version of them. Oh, and the last thing you're supposed to do for Blackout is fold this little gun down. That will help cover up the little missile port. So there. Like I mentioned, they are kind of a cutesified version of their actual counterparts. Like, if we go ahead and get their Voyager counterparts in here, we'll start with Starscream. And you see here's the fast action battlers next to the 07 Voyager Starscream. And you see he's about deluxe size, and as far as like details and movie accuracy, yeah, he's nothing compared to the Voyager, which the Voyager, even by today's standards, isn't even that great either. But you can see he's not even trying to come close. But he's not trying to be this guy. He's just trying to be a fun, simple toy for kids, which I can appreciate. Let's go ahead and get him out of the way. And to bring Blackout back in here, let's go ahead and get his movie Voyager counterpart. And you can see what they were kind of going for here. They're actually a bit closer in height since Blackout's a little bit shorter than Starscream. You see, yeah, for the most part, they try to get all the same details. You know, he has the helicopter chest. He has the missiles on the arms here. The legs are even very similar and transform in a similar way. He even has the rotor on the back, even though it doesn't look as good. You know, they really did try. Even the colors are pretty similar. Like, he has silver here while he has gray hands. You know, the colors and everything, it's all very similar. He even has the Decepticon symbol in the chest. Although, for some reason, unlike Starscream's, Blackout got an OG, like, G1 style Decepticon symbol. He did come out, like, 2 waves later, so I guess maybe they changed him by then. But he does have, like, the OG purple kind of Decepticon symbol. So yeah, as you can see, they are not really much compared to their Voyager counterparts, but these aren't really meant to be the movie representations that everybody will have. These are really meant to be like just simple, fun little kids' toys. And for that, they do alright. Looking at details, you know, you can see Starscream, his head is pretty far in there, and it's on this weird little slant where he's constantly looking down into his own chest. It can be kind of hard to get a good look at his head. It kind of makes it look like he's not transformed all the way. Like, this should go down an extra click, which it does have this little extra bit it can go, which straightens his head out a little more, but it doesn't stay. And you can see you can bend the wings out of the way and get a good look in there, and there's nothing I'm missing. It doesn't click an extra piece, so... Oh yeah, and before I mention, these tail pieces are, they are on springs, so they can push back to get out of the way, but they're not going to stay there. They're going to immediately just pop back into where they were. But, you know, he's got the cockpit for the chest, even if it looks a little super deformed and goofy. He has the legs. He has everything you expect to see on a movie Starscream, so he's pretty good. As far as his gimmick goes, he has these little switches on his arm. So what you do for the Fast Action Battlers thing is that you just hit the switch at the top of his arm, like so. They flip down his blade, and there's one above his shoulder, flips his arm forward so you can have some stabby action. Or I guess you could say it's slicing. The only thing this does is get rid of his arm articulation, but to be honest, he didn't have much anyway, because if you look at the other arm, it just swivels. That's it. And nothing at the head, and the hips just, the hips are ball jointed, and you actually do have a knee joint. which is pretty nice for this. I wasn't expecting any kind of knee joint, but you can actually use them as like backwards knees to kind of actually straighten his legs out into a knee joint almost, if that makes sense. But he does have the chicken legs that you would expect from Starscream. But yeah, that's his whole gimmick. You can hit those two switches, fold this away, you know, hit the switch, blade, and hit the air switch for stab. But, you know, it works. It's a neat little kid's gimmick, and to be honest, for the time, it's not that bad, and even today, it's still a cool little thing. One of the things I always did like, though, is that despite not having his wings be his wings, like, despite them having, like, backwards wings almost, since the actual wings are folded up inside, the panels that fold out still try to emulate some Starscream wings, and even have some really nice detail on the inside. And there's even some detail underneath where the chest piece is that's not painted, but it's all very nice looking. So I think they actually did a good job. It doesn't feel like just a lazy throw-together toy. And Blackout's very similar with that, too. His oddest thing is his head. Seeing Blackout's head this blown up and this deformed makes it look really weird, because Starscream, for the most part, has almost the same head, since it's just like slightly smaller. Here, Blackout's head's blown up like 3 or 4 times its normal size you would expect, and seeing it this size and this deformed kind of makes it look a little weird. He has a very almost Megatron-like, especially his eyes. His eyes are painted silver with little black pupils, and it just can make for a rather creepy feeling. But, you know, he does have some nice silver paint on them. He does have silver for the arms, some silver on the little, right above his legs. You know, he's got a little bits of paint that you wouldn't really expect from toys these days. Oh, he does have this little bit of kibble, which if you're going to display on your shelf, I recommend just folding this down and even flipping the tail fin back out, or maybe like that, and that'll even it out more, but that's really up to you. His gimmick is that you could put the missile back in right here, plug it in right there, or if we take off his gyro blade, come on, it really pegs in there tightly, there we go. You can actually take his, let's see, not his right hand, but his left hand here. His left hand has this little peg hole in it. And what this does is if you peg it in his rotor blade, you can emulate the Voyager class's gimmick where you have a little spinning blade attack. And it's even to the point that his waist is actually on a spring, so that way you could do like this kind of swiping action. So, you know, that's how you would actually have them battle if you want. You know, you could have Starscream over here, he's over here waggling, Starscream's over here hitting the switch and stabbing, you know. I'm sure if it was a little kid would probably go nuts for that, actually, but yeah, but you can just, which I kind of like. For a little gimmick, it's pretty cool, plus it still kind of works so you can just shake it and he'll still do it. But he does have one other gimmick. It's actually kind of hard to see, but there is a little piece here that flips up and over, like so. Blocks even more of his head, and this is actually a secondary missile launcher right here. And it doesn't fit the gyro blade, unfortunately, because if you look at the gyro blade, if we can get back out, it's on this little like cross shape, and this is kind of a normal hole. I don't think it even fits into the normal missile launcher. Does it? I mean, it'll go in there, but it's not going to do anything. It's not even long enough to be a missile, unfortunately. But you could have this flip over and you could put the missile here and have like a secondary missile launcher. Oh, what this does is hide even more of his face. Because the weird thing about him is his face is kind of just attached to the front here. You don't really see it much from the side. Like, even if you get this piece out of the way, you see his head, just the front, like, third or quarter of it's just his face. You flip up like that, you can't see his face, and then you flip over this thing, and you can literally just see his forehead. So it does make for a very odd-looking Transformer. But, you know, that is his gimmicks. You can put the you can do a couple things with the gyro blade. You have a couple options with the missile. And it's kind of nice to have options on a little gimmick toy like this. Where he does suffer a little bit, though, is his articulation. His head doesn't do anything. His arms have 2 different shoulder joints, because, you know, you could rotate this for the shoulder, or you could just use the rotation here. So, whichever you prefer, you do get a swivel for both arms. So the gimmick doesn't really get in the way of his articulation for his arms. At least they're the same on both. No waist because of the spring gimmick. He does have fully usable hips. He does have some knee joints that go about 90 degrees. And due to transformation, you could say he has some ankle tilt if you want. You could actually use the ankle tilt a little bit to kind of get like him leaning down to fire off a big attack. So I would count it because, you know, you can use it. You can actually pose him in a nice little pose if you want. Yeah, if we can give him the balance. His balance is off. There we go. So if you want, you can give him a pose. His articulation's a bit more useful than Starscream's. So yeah, there's that. So those are the fast action battlers, at least the two I have. Overall, I think they're a neat little gimmick. I kind of wish they would bring something like this back. I know we have the one-step changers now, but I kind of like this, where we have about a deluxe-sized class figure with a neat little gimmick thrown in. I don't really like how RID's kind of handling that stuff with the little shooter things, the little pod shooters, whatever they're called. I do kind of miss these kind of gimmicks we had in the movie line, when we had more of a budget, and Hasbro was more willing to make a risk with it. I think these came out pretty well for a collector. Yeah, most collectors aren't going to really be interested in this unless they like the super deformed style. In which case, they might work for you. But for the most part, these really are going to be for little kids. But for a kid's toy, I think they work well. They have just enough of an action figure still in them for kids that really call it for kids to get like as their first action list, and they're actually kind of fun to mess around with. I do still like to mess around with Starscream's little switchblade thing going on here. And, you know, always enjoy the spinning thing. Plus, I like toys that have spring-loaded waist punching gimmicks. It entertains me to no end. So overall, I think these are worth picking up if you have a little kid who likes the movie Transformers, but they find them too complicated to transform for themselves. Or if you just happen to like the super deformed style, or if you like gimmick toys, these are some of the better ones. So, not for everyone, not for the common collector, but, you know, if you're into the style, these are a decent pick. Plus, I don't think they're too expensive on eBay. They might be there since they're a little bit older. But overall, I do recommend them. So, this has been Nerdy Transformed. I hope you enjoyed this review, and hope you have a good day. Take care.